Hey gang, it's me, your Uncle Todd, starting a new series here, Monster Todd's, Uncle Todd's Monster TV Reviews, in which we look at TV shows that had a monster or horror vibe to it. Since I'm not sure if I want to do an entire series overview or just episodes overview, I thought I would start with an unsold pilot made back in the 50s called Tales of Frankenstein. It was a collaboration between Hammer Studios and Screen Gems, which was a subsidiary of Columbia. And because Columbia had the TV rights to the Universal Monster movies, their collaboration with Hammer allowed them to use the old-style Boris Karloff, Jack Pierce makeup. Now, there was difficulty with the two sides because Screen Gems wanted to make something that was more Universal-like, and Hammer wanted to make a show based around Curse of Frankenstein that they had just completed and was a big hit. So they wanted to focus to be on the Baron. And they were able to get cast Anton Diffring, who, of course, would go on later to play the lead character in The Man Who Could Cheat Death. And unfortunately, there was a lot of animosity. Well, I shouldn't say animosity. Non-agreement between the two parties. Some of the scripts that the Hammer writers made, because it was going to be a half and half American scripts, half English scripts. Those English scripts were all rejected, but they would become the basis for Frankenstein Created Woman and The Evil of Frankenstein. Kurt Siodmak, who was a major writer for Universal and was one of the producers for this show, did not think it had a lot of merit. He felt that a continuing story of Frankenstein just really wouldn't work. Now there was, I believe there was mention of an anthology, but I don't know how that would work either. But as just a standalone, it's a pretty good episode. You got that Hammer feel, and you got the Universal look, and think of the monster. And of course, Siodmak would go on and produce another TV show, more of an anthology, called 13 Demon Street. And that one would have Lon Chaney Jr. as a host. Although they produced an entire season, that one did not sell either. And 3 of those episodes were cobbled together with a new wraparound where Lon Chaney played the devil, basically. And in which he would have a minion go to Earth and drop off a cursed object. And then that would then lead into one of the episode clips. It was called The Devil's Messenger. And I'll get around to doing that at film sometime down the road. But to start out, the Baron sends all his people away at night. And he does this so he can work on his monster. And he actually brings it to life, but it doesn't work out the way he thinks it would. Really shouldn't have used that murderer's brain. That's the conclusion he comes to. Let me check my notes here. There is a couple that arrives at the village named Halpert. And the husband is sick. And they mention they're going to go see Frankenstein to see if he can help. And they get the typical response when you mention the name Frankenstein in a movie.
That way, you are not going to die. You will be helped by Baron Frankenstein.
Well, ignoring that warning, they go to the Baron that night and explain the husband, who was a sculptor, an artist, good brain, that he's dying. And they need his help because they've heard of his experiments. And the Baron isn't exactly the cup of human kindness.
I'm afraid facts have a peculiar way of becoming distorted, Mrs. Halbert. Oh, it is true, I was once involved in certain experiments with animals, research on prolonging the span of life. But as for humans, that kind of experimentation is against the law.
Liar! Okay, calm down there. We know he's lying. So he sends them back to the hotel. And that night, husband dies. And for some strange reason, the Baron attends the funeral.
Leave it open until sunrise.
I'm taking a chance if they find out.
Well, the next day, the widow finds her husband's grave is open. It's been disturbed. So she goes back to the village, tracks down the gravedigger, who's drunk because he spent the whole night drinking, and learns the Baron paid him to leave the grave open. Convinced the Baron is helping her husband, even though he said he wouldn't, she rushes back to his castle, only to be rebuffed. But do not underestimate a widow. She sneaks in and finds her husband isn't exactly the way she left him.
Your name is Halbert.
Naturally, Mrs. Halbert screams. This causes the monster to slug Frankenstein and chase her down the stairs, where she faints. He's going to pick her up, do that monster thing that they do. Baron comes to, and he's not having any of that nonsense.
Don't come any closer.
Next, we get a big chase. Frankenstein chasing the monster and the wife. Leads to the graveyard, where they have another fight. And it looks like this time, Halbert is going to end Frankenstein. When all seems lost, Mrs. Halbert intervenes.
But it was decent and good. Now, don't destroy everything now because of a hideous face and grotesque body that aren't yours. Please.
Well, with the monster now down, buried under there, Frankenstein frantically tries to dig him back out because it's his creation. He's going to do that, and as luck would have it, police show up because all this craziness going on and he gets arrested for grave robbery. And then we end with Frankenstein giving a pithy little speech.
You have your job to do. And so have I. And I don't think either of us would let anything stand in the way of fulfilling our respective destinies. Time is of small matter. You see, there's always tomorrow.
That wasn't ominous. Been saying well a lot this episode. I'll work on that. I thought it was a pretty good half-hour show. Would have made an excellent episode on one of the anthologies that were prevalent in the 50s and 60s. I could have seen it on like Alfred Hitchcock or Tales of Tomorrow, maybe, you know, who knows. But as it is, it's a nice little short. And I do have some questions, but how exactly this would have worked as a show, especially in that time period, considering standards and practices on TV. I don't think they would have had a villain continually go from episode to episode. You know, evil's got to be defeated, especially on a show that would appeal to kids like this would. But all we can do is speculate. We only have the pilot here. It's called The Face in the Tombstone Mirror. Pretty good title for an episode. But that's about all I have to say about it. It was it's fun. I enjoyed it. And if you get a chance, you can find it online many places if you want to check it out. And well, please hit like, share, and subscribe. And stay after the credits for my favorite scene.